Welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch, and we're here each and every Tuesday breaking down segments that can impact your practice. Those are mindset, clinical conversations, marketing, business principles, and much more. And we have a great featured guest. Today's show is going to be awesome, Jason. I am pumped, and I think that all the docs watching and listening are going to get a lot out of our discussions today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I love doing the Smart Chiropractor Show each week, where you get to tune in and tune up your practice and your life. It's a great day. I'm excited to be here. It's spring. Things seem to be opening up. Weather seems to be getting better. People seem to be a little happier, maybe a little more active. It's a good thing. And I'm excited for today's show. We got a lot we're going to talk about. We're going to get even deeper in some of the topics we've been talking about over the past few shows. So if you've been watching, we're going to go deeper today. If you're new to the show, I think you're going to be excited about what you will learn and experience here as part of the Smart Chiropractor Show.
I could not agree more. Let's kick it off with our Mindset Mentor segment. Mindset Mentor segment. We kick off every Smart Chiropractor show with the Mindset Mentor segment because it is that important. It sets the stage for everything you do on the how, because it starts with why. Jason, today we're going to be doing our review of Unlimited by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I view him as the king of opportunity, showcasing what's possible. I know you have done deep study on his work when you went through and you've learned and discovered different aspects of really personal development, I want to say, ultimately within Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, and specifically Unlimited. What have you learned?
Well, for those that don't know, I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza. He is a chiropractor who graduated Life University, right on Life U. And I consider him a friend. I've met him on multiple occasions. We've had, several good conversations and connections together, chiropractor to chiropractor, over the many years past. Recently, just to give you sort of some personal insight, I was on a trip, and on the trip, a friend of mine was talking about Joe's work, and it just so happened to be the day that Joe's next event was opening up, and just so happened, if you believe in coincidence or synchronicity or whatever you call this magic of life, you have your own words, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about here today. But I'm going to be sharing with you part of my journey. I did get to sign up. I found out some really interesting things that might be interesting to you as well. And part of what we want to share about here on our Mindset Mentorship this week, which is, Joe has really cracked the code on something I've sort of been, knocking on the door of as it relates to the conversation of our profession. And that is understanding how big of an idea chiropractic really is. And I've been asking myself this question when I've been presenting recently on different stages. I sort of open up by sort of setting the stage, asking the question. I'll ask you the question. If chiropractic is such a big idea, if it is so powerful in its ability to help people heal, if it has so much potential to maybe even transform the way people think about health and healthcare, and perhaps, as some of us might believe, in fact, not just integrate into the healthcare system, but potentially can disrupt and transform our healthcare system altogether. Now, the pharmaceutical industry might not be huge fans of that. The entire economy might not be huge fans of that, because roughly 17, maybe even more percent of every dollar in the United States goes towards what we call healthcare, which is really sick care. And that's part of the problem. And that's part of what I am so inspired about what Dr. Joe Dispenza is doing. And to sort of, I guess, cut to the point, one of the things I've been saying for a long time about this profession, and I am one, so I give myself permission to be critical of us as a collective group. It's the only way we grow, is to self-analyze, not just congratulate ourselves for how wonderful we are, which we are, but also to be self-aware enough as a collective profession to understand both our strengths and our weaknesses. And one of the weaknesses, I believe, that we have had as a general mindset is the belief, is the mindset, something we've all been taught, that you've got to educate people about chiropractic. And it's something that was sort of drilled into my head by my mentors, my teachers, practice management gurus, that the way you build your practice is to educate people about what chiropractic is. And I did that for many years in my practice, and it was, I'll say, mildly successful. But what I found over the years is that people already have a prejudice, a prejudgment about the word chiropractic and how they define what chiropractic is. And one of the challenges we face as a profession, and we could go on for hours on this one topic, we won't, but you may want to think about this and start exploring what it means to you. And that is the conversation around the fact that we're all claiming the title chiropractor, while simultaneously most of us do something very different than each other. And using the title chiropractor, just like a lawyer would use the word lawyer or a medical doctor might use the term doctor, is not descriptive enough for people to raise their hands and go, I want you as my doctor, as my lawyer, as my chiropractor. When we just stick to here's what chiropractic is, it's the equivalent of a lawyer saying, here's what the law is. Here's what medicine is. But none of those things go deep enough as descriptors to help understand what type of lawyer you are or what type of doctor you are. And so it leaves the public very confused. In fact, it leaves them unable to make a really good decision about who they should choose as their chiropractor. Let me make the point really clear, and then we'll get back to Joe's work because it's really what I want to focus on. The point is this. If I lined up 10 chiropractors in a line against a wall, and I asked you, a chiropractor, maybe you work at a chiropractor's office, you're an office manager, or CA, but you're knowledgeable about what chiropractic is and how it works, my question for you is, would you be able to choose which of the 10 chiropractors standing in front of you is the right chiropractor for you, just knowing they're all chiropractors? And the answer is no. You don't have enough information. Now, you may choose them because they're close. You may choose them because you think they're attractive. You may choose them because you recognize them from your church or school or some other way. You've got some other affiliation with them, but there's not enough information for you to choose which chiropractor because you don't know what type of practice they have. You don't know if they take insurance, don't take insurance. You don't even know if they adjust or don't adjust. You don't know if they recommend short care plan recommendations or long-term care plan recommendations. There's not enough information. What does that have to do with Dr. Joe Dispenza's work? Joe's work, which I'm going to continue to share over time. I'm going through the work myself, and I'll share it with you as I'm going through what I'm learning. But the number one thing I want to bring up today starts with Joe's title, Unlimited. And what Joe has done a masterful job at, and I want to encourage you, we'll put the link in the show notes somewhere. I want to encourage you to study his work, both for whatever personal benefit you want to get from it, and I believe you will. But for this specific point, I want to use Joe's work as an example of how to share what I'll refer to as the chiropractic story, just so you know what I'm talking about. But what the world now understands is how life works, more specifically, how our brain functions and works, and even more specifically, how understanding, learning, applying the principles of how your brain works can actually help you feel unlimited. And Joe has done an amazing job, in my opinion, perhaps the best job of anyone I've ever seen in our entire profession, articulating what we call the chiropractic story without ever using the word or term chiropractic once. Now, some people are critical of that. Well, how is he in that position and he doesn't include chiropractic as part of his teaching? I'm going to just sort of suggest just the opposite. Part of what I learned and am so impressed about Joe's work is the fact that when I actually went to go sign up for his $2,000 week-long program, some of you may think that's a lot, some of you may think that's not a lot, but when I went to go sign up for his $2,000 program, I quickly learned that there were roughly over 1,000 people or so that were waiting to sign up, and he sold out his week-long event at $2,000 a head in, I believe, about 5 minutes or less. So Joe has found a way to not have to worry about needing more new patients. He's found a way, or needing new clients in this case. He has found a way to build up such gratitude and appreciation and demand for what it is that he does that he doesn't need a marketing or advertising company to help him get more new ones. And that's what I think we should all be sort of taking some notes on, is understanding very specifically that what Joe has done is learned how to share his unique expression, his unique talent, and his passion for wanting to help people understand how they can live an unlimited life. And included in that unlimited life, of course, is the ability to self-heal through all types of conditions or concerns. In fact, one of the most important distinctions, you may want to write this down and use this as a learning moment, is that what Joe does so beautifully, so elegantly, so perfectly, if I may say, is that he doesn't teach people what to think. He's teaching people how to think. And I wanted to make that one distinction in terms of how you present yourself to the public, whether that's digitally on social media, whether that's what you're teaching people through your emails, what you're teaching people through your in-office videos, through your workshops, podcasts, whatever you might be doing to hopefully teach and invite consistently. You're not just limiting yourself to, I'll just call it the way I see it, the extremely lazy approach to simply do what we were all taught decades ago when people had financial aid, which was health insurance that covered most of their care. You didn't have to be creative to explain to people to build demand for what you do when they had good health insurance, right? Oh, you're a chiropractor. I have chiropractic benefits. You provide chiropractic care. Well, I get reimbursed, or you can get reimbursed for chiropractic care. That all made sense back then. In today's world, where people actually have to consider, do I have the time to go to the chiropractor? My deductible is thousands of dollars if I even have any coverage whatsoever for chiropractic care. The value proposition is very different today than it's ever been before in the past. And if you are the kind of chiropractor, like I am, that knows that chiropractic care is much more valuable than just the temporary relief of symptoms, while some third party is willing to reimburse for that care. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying there's more to it than just that. Then you probably have found yourself in the cycle, I dare say addiction, of always needing new patients every month, with the added frustration that people just don't understand what we do. Year after year, decade after decade, if you've been doing this long enough. And really, to summarize, what we've come down to is that that's actually a reflection of us collectively as a profession. If you look at the collective message that we put out as a profession, you would have to ask yourself, how would people ever understand what it is that we really do based on the messaging we put out? We've created the self-fulfilling prophecy that we put out a message that people want to hear, which is typically temporary pain relief if all insurance is covered, while simultaneously hoping people will understand that there's more to it than just temporary pain relief and we'll take your insurance. But yet, where and when is anyone collectively, group, organization, association, going to set the record straight and actually share with people what it is, not that we do, but that you do, so that people can choose you as their chiropractor, not just choose chiropractic as a profession. We've gone terribly wrong over the decades. What has worked in the past is not necessarily working now and in the future the same way. And we'll continue in these mentorship, these mindset segments to really explore your mindset. And so my summary for today, as we close up, Jeff, I'll ask you for your feedback as well, is that we really are stuck in this revolving door paradigm, this cause and effect and cause cycle, that people don't know how to choose you as their chiropractor. And the reason is because we're not individually sharing our unique story articulately and clear enough for people to really understand what it is that they get out of it. So just as an example, Dr. Joe Dispenza does not refer to himself, he does not promote himself as a chiropractor. He refers to himself as an expert in neurology, in neuroscience, in quantum physics, in psychoneuroimmunology, in epigenetics. Now, you may go, well, yeah, I've studied those things. Bruce Lipton used to teach, for example, at Life West, he used to teach at my practice to the people in my practice for lay lectures decades ago. Because when people learn about the power they have, not the power you have, but the power they have to heal themselves, when they recognize that they're capable of self-healing at a much higher level than they are right now, when they realize that they have the power to heal themselves by understanding how to use their brain and neurology to self-heal and improve their life in every aspect, then the only question most of them therefore ask is one simple question: how do I do that? And if your explanation for that is to help them understand lifestyle choices, way of thinking of health as a healthy lifestyle, not just an event to react to symptoms after they occur, and if you provide adjustments that help clear the neurology, and you help them with intentions and understand the impact of psychoneuroimmunology. They're just the scientific terms of what most of us chiropractors believe and understand and live by ourselves. If we start getting more creative with the use of language and stop just referring to what I call training wheels on the bicycle. I'm a chiropractor. I provide chiropractic adjustments. I went to chiropractic school. Do you have any chiropractic benefits? If you stop using the word chiropractic in every sentence or almost every sentence, and you start really teaching people about themselves and the power they have to heal themselves and create the life and lifestyle that they want to have, and you are a guide and a vehicle to help them get and achieve their goals, you're going to start seeing very different responses, and you'll start attracting very different types of clients to come see you. And they won't be the kind that go, what do you mean you don't take my insurance? You mean I have to pay for some? How many is it going to be, and how quickly can you get me out of here? Because this pain is just irritating me, and I don't have time or energy to deal with any of your nonsense. And certainly do not do what I've heard so many chiropractors do, which is try to talk me into staying around for a long time. I'm sure most chiropractors love those types of people coming into their practice. If you'll start presenting yourself differently and teaching people how unlimited they are, or how supernatural they are, as he refers to it, you probably will start seeing a different type of person come to you, much more curious, much more open, much more willing to invest in their future, and much more satisfying and gratifying for you to want to work with, both in the short term and in the long term. Jeff, I hardly scratched the surface on the notes I took, but I know I wanted to get at least one major point across. It's one of the points you and I have been teaching for quite a while now, and it's really the inspiration behind why we do what we do with the Smart Chiropractor. Is if you believe that the way to attract your ideal audience is to teach and invite consistently, and that is what we believe, then you start asking yourself new questions. What should I be teaching? Who should I be teaching? What do I love to teach? And how do I make it sort of easy and reproducible so I can be passionate about it? And most importantly, people can actually appreciate it and want it. Jeff, I've been sharing some of this with you. I know you started watching some of the videos as well. What are some of your takeaways in our final moments of our mindset mentorship segment?
Jason, that was a powerful kickoff to today's Smart Chiropractor show. My big takeaway is what you described around languaging. So many chiropractors out there, chiropractic practice, chiropractic adjustments, chiropractic school, and it's not a patient-centric approach. With the patient-centric approach is highlighting the benefits, and that's one of the things I take away. One of the items I take away from what I call the king of possibilities, Dr. Joe Dispenza, is utilizing language that is focused on the benefits that your patient, your client, the individual coming into your practice can receive, as opposed to the features of what you are and what you do. And the more that you're in tune with the benefits you provide, the more you'll be speaking the language, regardless of the exact words you utilize, of the individuals coming into your practice. So I'm excited to go through the next few weeks. I know we have a lot to dig into on this topic. This has been a fantastic introduction to it. Thank you so much. And docs watching and listening, stay tuned to the Smart Chiropractor Show in the coming weeks as we continue to dive deeper into this work, because I know there are so many of you out there that maybe you've heard these names in the past, maybe you've sort of circled around a little bit, but this is going to be powerful information for you to be able to not only understand and be exposed to, but also to implement in your practice and your life. So Jason, thanks so much for diving in, for setting the stage for so many docs out there. And let's move over to our clinical conversation segment on today's episode of the Smart Chiropractor Show. Clinical Conversations on the Smart Chiropractor Show. Today, we are highlighting an Axis 2021 presentation from Dr. Gerry Clum. This is titled Spontaneous Intracranial Hypotension. I wanted to look down and make sure I get that correct. And this was a fantastic presentation. We were super fortunate to have Dr. Clum come in and teach during Axis 2021. We are also looking forward to Axis 2022. So be on the lookout over the coming weeks and months as we start to announce the details around Axis 2022. What is Axis? Well, if you are new, Axis is our yearly clinical seminar that takes place online. We draw together some of the best minds in and around chiropractic to talk clinical. And today is no exception. So without further ado, let's click over and check out an Axis 2021 presentation. We're going to do a little teaser of it. Spontaneous intracranial hypotension. Here we go.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Gerry Clum, and it's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon. And I'd like to thank Dr. Jason Deitch and Dr. Jeff Langmaid of the Smart Chiropractor for the opportunity to present at this year's Axis Clinical Conference. I'm very honored to be with you today and look forward to spending the next 35 or 40 minutes together to share some information that I think is important to you and might be useful to you and to perhaps some of your patients down the road. For the past 20, almost 25 years, I have been involved in the general category of risk management in chiropractic. I've been focused predominantly on CVA issues relative to cervical spine adjusting and vertebral artery issues. And along the way, have spent a good bit of time representing chiropractors in litigation and in pre-litigation activities. And along the way, I've developed several areas of interest based upon things that I've seen come across my desk and cases that I've been asked to comment upon. And I'd like to chat with you about one of those areas today, and that is the area of what's known as spontaneous intracranial hypotension, which is associated most commonly with dural leaks, which has a tendency to produce a very characteristic postural headache. Let me just jump right into my slides here. So we'd like to take, as I said, the next 35 minutes or so and review with you this general subject matter of spontaneous intracranial hypotension. Now, for many of you, this will be very much a review and things that you're very familiar with. And as I'm going through this, some of the elements that I'll be talking about will be well known to you and very obvious to you, and others might be new, and the context that I put them together might be helpful to you. So please understand that my goal here is to help better prepare you for your work and your function as a chiropractor in certain specific cases that might be associated with spontaneous intracranial hypotension. A little bit more in terms of my background. I told you about my activities relative to risk management. But from 1981 through 2011, I had the good fortune to serve as president of Life Chiropractic College West. From 2011 to today, I currently hold the honorary position of president emeritus at Life Chiropractic College West. In 2011, I joined the faculty again of Life University, where I started my career. in the initial faculty at Life Chiropractic College in Marietta. And coming back to that faculty in 2011, I accepted a position as the director of the Octagon at Life University. And it's been my good fortune to continue to work in that area for the last 10, 11 years or so. So let me jump right into the content here if we can. So let's talk about why we bother with this first and foremost. Well, spontaneous intracranial hypotension, which again results predominantly from dural leaks, has been associated with symptoms that are commonly seen by chiropractors, in particular neck pain, headache, and sensory disturbances. Beginning in 2000, a series of case reports has been published, some suggesting, some asserting, and some stating outright that chiropractic care can be a cause of dural leaks that in turn yield spontaneous intracranial hypotension. And as a result, the potential for allegations of malpractice or falling below the standard of care in general associated with these types of problems and headaches has come to the table. Obviously, knowing which patients to immediately refer, which patients to co-manage with a neurologist or a leak specialist, or which cases you can manage on your own as a chiropractor, will be very helpful to you as well as to your patients. Spontaneous intracranial hypotension is predominantly caused by dural leaks in the spine. Now, the leaking of the cerebrospinal fluid from the dura causes the buoyancy of the brain to be lost or lessened at least, and it yields the sagging of the brain and the skull. This obviously stresses the elements of the lower portions of the brain, putting traction upon them and causing a wide variety of symptoms. The classic presentation involved is a postural headache that resolves in recumbency and worsens when upright. Now, to go back a little bit more in terms of background on the dural sac, as you remember, is a watertight membrane. And within the dural membrane, the cerebrospinal fluid circulates. And it's this circulation and the maintenance of this circulation that maintains the floating environment of the brain within the skull cavity. The dura of the cranial vault is continuous with the dura of the spinal canal, and the dura extends in the form of dural sleeves as a covering membrane for the spinal nerves to the area of the dorsal ganglion. This happens by way of penetrating the dural sac in an inferolateral direction and takes with the nerve, an extension of the dura mater and the arachnoid mater. So you can begin to see why some persons who are concerned about dural leaks might say that something that we do in terms of rotary motions of the neck or mechanical input that we offer in terms of the process of adjusting could have the ability to influence this dural covering. Now, I'm not saying that it does. I'm just saying that that's the reasoning that's been applied by some persons in healthcare asserting a relationship. Now, this causes of spontaneous intracranial hypotension have been categorized into two major categories, primary and secondary. Primary are spontaneous in nature. Generally, there isn't a specific cause. The overall causative element or moment is unknown. It's associated with a weakness in the dural sac. That may be complicated by trauma, but it begins with a weakness in the dural sac, and it may be reflected in such things as meningeal diverticula or a connective tissue disorder, conditions such as Marfan's, for example. The secondary causes or classification of dural leaks are associated with definite trauma, such as a whiplash injury, such as a degenerative spinal disorder, a spur that digs into and cuts the dura, or the result of a surgical procedure, something as simple as a spinal tap or something as significant as an overdraining CSF shunt, so on. Any of these conditions can produce this dural leak environment that in turn produces the characteristic headache that I was speaking about. This was first identified in 1898, and dural leaks at that time, based upon the imaging and the understanding of neurology that was available, they were thought to be spontaneous and idiopathic. Well, in the last couple decades in particular, most specifically in the last decade, we now understand with the imaging that we have available to us is that there's really three primary areas where this pathology arises. And that has to do with the discogenic pathology, such as the spur that I made reference to before. It cuts into the dura, or a connective tissue disorder associated with Marfan's, or a spinal drainage problem in general, structural problem. Now, in terms of the causation, clearly the most common origin of this problem is that associated with lumbar puncture. The number of persons with CSF shunts is a pretty limited category, and then the number of those shunts that overdrain is obviously an even less likely opportunity. Myelography is a relatively common experience and evaluation. Spinal anesthesia, similarly, and cranial spinal surgery isn't that common, but again, can be an important area where this can arise. The thing we need to keep in mind is that none of those areas are things that we're going to be involved in directly clinically. But these types of problems, dural leaks, can develop with small insults, even something as simple as a Valsalva maneuver. And when it does occur in conjunction with a Valsalva maneuver, for example, it's generally associated with a weakness of the thecal sac of some congenital or acquired origin. Activities of daily life, such as coughing, sneezing, physical activities, such as heavy lifting, have been associated with the onset of spontaneous intracranial hypotension related to a dural leak. So while we have very dramatic origins with craniospinal surgery, we have very common everyday origins, such as a cough or a sneeze, that can generate this problem. And again, we obviously do something to the neck and the spine, I should say, more generally. We put forces into the spine. And the argument is, again, been put forward, the idea that if we're putting a force into the spine, that we have the potential to alter the dynamics and the fluid dynamics of the dural system and have the potential to produce a tear or aggravate a tear. Again, I'm not asserting that that's the case. I'm just telling you that that's part of the rationale for the authors from within medicine that have spoken about chiropractic being a factor in these areas.
Right. That was a presentation from Dr. Gerry Clum at Axis 2021. That presentation gets real because it dives deep into the science. I don't know actually anybody out there that has the depth of knowledge he does around that topic. I am super grateful, Jason, you put it together to have him as a guest, and 2021 Axis was awesome. 2022, I don't know. We're hoping it's going to at least meet the expectations, but 2021 was fantastic, and Dr. Clum put together a fantastic presentation. Any thoughts?
You know, it's wonderful to have such geniuses in our profession. Besides being the past president or past president of Life Chiropractic College West, he's been a mentor to many, and his mind and the way he's able to both understand the science of what we do as well as the philosophy of what we do, and his ability to integrate the two, I think has just been game-changing for the profession. I'm grateful for his both friendship and leadership for so many decades.
Very well said. That was our clinical conversation on today's Smart Chiropractor show. Again, be on the lookout for details around Axis 2022. But let's head over to our Research That Matters segment. Today's a fantastic segment tying into our monthly campaign, which is part of our yearly calendar. And our weekly topic is a good one. Stay tuned. Here we go. Welcome to the Research That Matters segment on today's Smart Chiropractor show. Research That Matters segment, we talk about the conversations our smart chiropractors are having throughout the world with their communities and beyond. With the Smart Chiropractor, we think about things on an annual calendar. We utilize monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts. And Research That Matters this month is Sports Chiropractic Month. That's our monthly campaign. This week is around pro tips to keep your spinal discs healthy. Movement is a critical part of this, and this is a great example tying to what we spoke about during the mindset segment around language. So for instance, we're talking sports chiropractic, but at the Smart Chiropractor, we believe there's an athlete in everybody, regardless of whether that activity is climbing up and down the stairs. Maybe it's a weekend warrior all the way up to pro athletes, as we discussed last week. But this week, we're tackling a topic of spinal discs, which many people have questions about and around, and it's why many people are exposed to chiropractic in the first place. However, we're taking a little bit of a different lens on how we have that conversation, and we're focusing on pro tips, pun intended with Sports Chiropractic Month, but the content revolves around movement. And in the Smart Chiropractor, we talk frequently about whole body movement, regional motion, and segmental motion. And the importance of segmental motion is it's the bottom of the pyramid. Everything else builds upon it. And for many people out there that might be fearful of or struggling with spinal disc injuries, or potentially they want to stay proactive with their health, what a concept, highlighting the importance of movement is critical. It's not only about health and healing with movement, or should I say healing with movement, but it's also about improving overall health with movement. That's the critical concept. We're going to show an example on the next segment of a doc doing a fantastic job showcasing this information. But Jason, as we talk about pro tips to keep your spinal discs healthy, what are some thoughts that come to mind for you?
Well, I love what you've been putting together in terms of our annual calendar, our monthly campaigns, weekly topics, and daily posts. And I'll let you sort of talk about the content itself. I'm going to take it from the context component. Why does this matter? What is the value of all of this? And there's really three different ways that you should be thinking about this. There's three different audiences or three different types of you that are listening. There are those of you that are already Smart Chiropractor members. You watch our show regularly. Thank you for tuning in each Tuesday. And you're asking yourself, what is going on this week, this month with my program? What are you guys at the Smart Chiropractor creating and sharing on social, on email, and in my videos? What are the topics this month, this week, and today? And so what you just shared is a great way for our current Smart Chiropractors to know this is what we're talking about. This is what's going out to your current clients and your audience. If you're following our directions and building what we call your health tribe, which is your digital following, this is the information that's going out. It's all about movement and motion and the impact that can have on your spine, on your nerves, on your discs, etc. The second category are those of you that are Smart Chiropractor clients. You keep an active understanding as to what's going on, but you're wondering, hey, I like to teach also. And I don't mind doing a podcast or doing a video or speaking up and sharing, but I'm just not sure what I should be talking about and saying. And some of you wing it. You get out there. A good something's better than a perfect nothing, and that's awesome. But to really do it as good as it can be done, you want to have a plan, a program, a strategy, a system of what you're doing. And that's really what, for those of you that are willing to speak up and speak out, have with this program. If you know, as Jeff just said, it's about motion, it's about movement, it's about spinal discs, it's even about being proactive. You are smart enough as a chiropractor to sort of take that baton metaphorically and run with it. What do you know about pro athletes, about movement, about motion? And if you follow our daily protocol, Motivational Monday, Testimonial Tuesday, Wake Up Wednesday, Tactical Thursday, and Friday favorites, then you can fit in the concept of motion, pro tips, in order to keep you healthy, and fit it into that daily protocol. Think of it like an adjusting technique for communication. What do I say? When do I say it? Well, here's what you say, and here's when you say it. So that's the model for those of you that are active Smart Chiropractor clients willing to take some action. And there's no judgment. We know that some of you use the Smart Chiropractor because you just want it handled for you. We're happy to do it. There are others that say, well, you guys provide the foundation so that I can teach on top of what it is you're providing for us. And then the third audience are those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about. And you're wondering, how do I actually get more people to appreciate what it is that I do in my practice? And so those two first options are your options. You can either use the Smart Chiropractor as a done-for-you automated content marketing system that's handled for you, and these types of topics will be going out yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily. Or if you are willing to do something, you're just not sure what, then this is sort of the base layer of what you can build upon. And that's really, I think, sort of the context to why this is a weekly segment, why it's so important. And one of my favorite segments is the next segment, where we actually get to watch what some actual current Smart Chiropractor clients are in fact doing to prove what I just suggested. So those are my thoughts on this week's topic.
Research That Matters is brought to you by the Smart Chiropractor. If you are looking to improve the number of new patients, ideal new patients coming into your practice, increase your active care retention, and get a consistent flow of reactivations, please check us out at www.thesmartchiropractor.com. Go over there and check out the tools that we discuss each and every week, or please head over to the Smart Chiropractor group where we coach and train on this within a group setting. So stay engaged, stay tuning in. And Jason, let's head over to what you alluded to, which is our member highlight for this week on the Smart Chiropractor Show. Member highlight, Smart Chiropractor Show, March 22nd, 2022. Let's bring up that little spot there. There we go. And today we're going to highlight Dr. Scott Lawrence of Jerusalem Family Wellness Center. Dr. Lawrence has been a member of the Smart Chiropractor for a little while, and he does a really nice job utilizing the tools and systems that we give him. He takes an active approach, which gives him the best results possible. And we're going to take a look at a video he recently shot tying to this week's weekly topic. And let's take a look at it. Then, Jason, you and I can share our thoughts around the benefits and the positive attributes that Dr. Lawrence is getting out of the videos he's shooting. Here we go with Dr. Scott Lawrence of Jerusalem Family Wellness Center.
Professional sports is a big business, and sports performance is a huge part of winning. So to help athletes play at the highest level possible, they're given access to a variety of the best healthcare options available. And that includes access to readily available chiropractic care for these athletes. Now, it's true. In fact, chiropractors can be found on nearly every sideline working to keep your favorite athletes and their teammates happy, healthy, and productive on and off the field, pitch, rink, court, you name it. Now, thankfully, the days of receiving shots of narcotics and anti-inflammatories on the sidelines are over, and blocking pain is not a good way to prevent pain, especially when it comes to sports and activities that push the body. Now, in a way, it causes more injuries, and that's why chiropractic is so important to sports these days and their franchises, because they realize that the team approach to care is best. In fact, nearly every professional sports team has a team chiropractor to help keep their athletes performing at their peak level. And what's more, it's estimated that 90% of all professional and Olympic athletes use chiropractic care to increase performance and reduce the risk of injury. So with chiropractors, there's a great way to find the cause of the problem in the injuries, and the athletes get back to the game feeling better faster than ever. So you don't need to be part of a professional sports team to enjoy the benefits of chiropractic. All you need to do is to deal with these aches and pains and problems is to show up in the offices, get checked, and see if we can help you. So if you're a professional athlete or just a regular person, a weekend warrior as we call it, or you're constantly traveling for youth sports, chiropractic care can help keep you in the game. Pain relief and improved function are just a couple of the ways our care can help with the problems, but more importantly, we're here to correct the cause of the problem and keep you functioning the way it's supposed to. So give us a call.
Dr. Scott Lawrence, couple things, Jason, before I kick it over to you, I want to highlight, number one, great job taking action. We always say results follow action. Dr. Scott Lawrence taking action right there. And who said organic reach is dead? He has 14 engagements on there and a comment and a share. So there is no question when you get out there and start to teach and invite consistently, you can make an impact. But you got to take those action steps to get those results, Jason.
It's 100% the case. Again, this goes back to one of our common, I don't know if you call it criticisms or maybe suggestions for the profession. How is anyone going to know how to choose you as their specific chiropractor if they're not sure what you believe as a chiropractor? And again, even chiropractors don't know how to identify what other chiropractors do and believe. So unless you follow our formula, the TIC should be easy for chiropractors to remember. TIC is teach and invite consistently. Now, the hard part about doing that, nobody's saying it's easy. It is hard, which is why most don't do it. You only see the Josh Axes or the Joe Dispenzas or the others who really have a full-time position, career, job, communicating to people oftentimes in a more creative way than just saying, hi, I'm a chiropractor that provides chiropractic care. They get creative in their use of words to help people understand what's in their best interest. And if you want to make it easier to be able to start teaching and inviting your audience consistently, then it helps to have some research-based information, perhaps even some scripting, at least some bullet points, all provided for you by your monthly Smart Chiropractor membership as your basis to know what to talk about. And the other powerful part about all of this is sort of like, peanut butter and jelly or peanut butter and chocolate or whatever. Two things are better together than they are individually. When you have automated messaging that's beautifully designed, research-based, and cited, that's automatically going out for you on social, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and your email list, current clients and inactive clients, and then you build upon that. We'll do our job, you do your job. You take that information and really personalize it from your unique training, your unique experience, your unique testimonials or examples of people in your practice that you've worked with. You personalize the work we've done for you, and together it is better than if it was just us or just you. And that's really putting it together. And the hardest part about all of this, even if you're great at research and even if you've got somebody who can help you with the design, is the consistency part of it. The hardest part is consistency. We often say that consistency is the new intensity, that you can't do it all at one time. It is just that drip method over time that is what's going to get you the long-term results. Just like you teach people in your community that you don't just come in, get 10 adjustments in one day. You hopefully get them once a week for 10 weeks or whatever is recommended for your individual person. It is in the consistency over time that happens. Great example from Scott Lawrence. We'll keep looking. If you are a client or non-client and you are teaching people consistently, we want to know, we want to see it, we want to highlight you, we want to just commend you for taking action and highlight you so that we follow what I call the Roger Bannister concept, which is once you see somebody's done it, they've broken the 4-minute mile, then everybody's mind recognizes, wait, if you can do it, I can do it. And so we're going to keep highlighting those people that are doing these types of weekly, sometimes daily videos or other types of formats, podcasts, videos, webinars, video segments, call it whatever you want to. It's basically turning on a camera and sharing your heart and your knowledge with as many people as you possibly can. Keep up the great work, everyone. We want to see what you're doing if you're doing it. If not, look at what other people are doing because you can do it too.
The key word there, Jason, is consistency. You nailed it. Getting out there consistently across your channels and utilizing the tools that are supplied by the Smart Chiropractor can make a big impact. And day after day, week after week, month after month, we see the results that we report on our website. So if you want to check it out, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. And I think it is about time to head into our featured guest segment. Welcome to the featured guest segment on today's Smart Chiropractor show. A few weeks back, Jason and I had the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Steve Capobianco of Rock Tape, and we titled it Creating a Champion's Mindset. You'll see why as we play this special interview. Steve is a really great guy. He is a trailblazer in chiropractic and beyond with the companies that he's created, with the model of how he ran his practice as well before the start of Rock Tape. And I think you're going to get a lot out of today's interview that Jason and I conducted with Dr. Steve Capobianco of Rock Tape. Hey docs, Dr. Jeff Langmaid here with my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch, and welcome to our featured guest segment. Today we have a special guest, a gentleman that I have known for a while, and I'm sure is going to be a familiar face to many people watching. We have Dr. Steve Capobianco, co-founder of Rock Tape and Senior Director of Movement Innovation at M+. I hope I got that right. Steve, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today.
My pleasure, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to seeing where this takes us. I
like the openness and the open-endedness, and with that, I've been to a host of rock tape events throughout the years. Jason and I have talked, about rock tape for years. I think that you've done something just really, really, and continue to do something really unique in the profession. If I were to trace it back, I love starting with this question. What's sort of the origin story? Like, how did this even start and come to fruition? And then we could talk about where things are going next.
Sure. It's a story that I think it's evolved and probably changed. I'm not sure if it's completely accurate any longer because the stories have come from multiple different sources. But this source is saying that in 2009, I met a gentleman. I was practicing in Northern California, Los Gatos, California, in fact. And I was the local taping guy. I was using Kinesio tape and KT and others that existed at that time. And a gentleman showed up at my office, had a box of tape, had a box of rock tape that he had already created, and he wanted some answers on how best to bring it to the market. And at that time, I was having some difficulty just with the tape sticking on the body. Ultimately, that was the biggest issue that I was having with the patients that I was working with, and those patients were primarily endurance athletes. And so he kind of gave me the tape. He said, test it out, let me know what you think. And I did. It did exactly what I was looking for. And so I called him back in, and I presented an argument that there's some education that I think could be updated as it relates to kinesiology tape. I had a viewpoint of applying the tape in a movement-based setting, and we kind of joined forces at that time. And since 2010, we created an education platform that has changed names, but currently is called the Functional Movement Training System. And we've evolved from not just creating and developing education for kinesiology tape, but now we've added instrument-assisted techniques, myofascial cupping, compressional floss band therapy, and more. So since 2010, we've created education and products for the manual therapist, in particular chiropractors.
That is a very cool story. I think almost everybody knows of your brand, if not uses your brand. You guys have really done just, I think, a remarkable job getting, your name out there in what would appear to be, I guess, sort of a commodity type product. I mean, movement tape, as far as I know anyway. But what you do so well that I'd love to learn more about really is your education to the doctors. And my question more specifically is, what kind of education do you give the doctors to give their patients? I mean, ultimately, it's the users, patients, clients of the doctors that have to sort of understand and or appreciate, I'm coming in to get taped up. Tell us about, obviously part of it is teaching doctors what they need to know, but what do you teach doctors about what patients need to know, and how do you sort of set that sequencing up, being that we teach doctors how to teach and invite their communities how to understand things that they don't currently understand. What's your approach with that?
I think that's a great question. And to be honest, in over 10 years, no one's really asked that question. So I really appreciate it. And I'll tell you why. I think that point in particular is probably most important. And I do believe chiropractors, one of the reasons why I love our profession, do that best. We create that relationship with the patient and the individual. And I'm going to kind of use the individual versus the patient, because I quite often believe that we forget we're treating an individual, a human being, and I might be, going a little bit astray when I'm answering this question, but ultimately I think it's important to discuss. And what I mean by this is that we could teach the mechanic how to thrust through a specific joint, how to apply an instrument-assisted technique to be able to affect the mobility of X tissue, and to apply a strip of tape on a specific area of the body. That part is ultimately consistent with what most people teach. what I feel that we do and what I feel most proud about in respect to our education is doing exactly that, is explaining to the practitioner how to relay the information to the individual that they're working with, they're interacting with, to be able to get the best buy-in and understanding of what's really happening. And I think that's most important. So let me just kind of bring it back to a strip of tape on someone that has an injured knee. I want that individual, I want the practitioner to convey the message that that strip of tape does have an effect on influencing your pain, and we can explain in a user-friendly way to be able to suggest that the tape is having these types of an effect to be able to mitigate your pain. But most importantly, what I want that individual to understand is that we're really connecting that body part to their nervous system. And that relationship between the body part that has been somewhat smudged due to their painful experience or their lack of movement, we're just reconnecting them to that body part with that strip of tape or our hands on their body or the use of an instrument. That's really where the central message is around our education, is that we're connecting the body to their nervous system, we're connecting the body part to the individual, and that's what creates meaning. That's what develops buy-in with that patient and that individual, so then we can get a more robust outcome. Does that make sense to you guys?
I think that's a great answer, and I'm gonna go. I want to extend that a little bit to, I guess, to you personally. I think of you and consider you somebody, very cerebral with what you've been able to achieve, how you think about education and how you've been able to grow and develop that. I see behind you, never give up, some positive slogans. How does personal development and, your own mindset, how has that played a role in your own business development, throughout time? I don't know why I'm going that direction, but it's something I've never really asked you. And I just would be super interested because I'm sure that you've had challenges, had missed opportunities, had things that went, wonderfully, and had some things that maybe you wish went different directions. How do you wake up every day? What are some maybe personal developments or positive mindset, tips, tricks, or strategies that you personally have utilized throughout your career?
Yeah, again, great question. And obviously everyone is influenced through their personal experience within their lifetime. And, I think that's a consistent story that I hear with a lot of chiropractors, is that they were driven towards the profession due to an ailment that was ameliorated by a chiropractor. And so I also have a story, and the story is, years of athletics, typically, collision sports that have left my body, less than ideal, if to say it best. And so I have multiple injuries that I've always struggled with, and chronic pain is one of them. And I've always been able to manage the pain as a mechanic, as I was traditionally trained. But the evolution of my experience has evolved the way that I interact with my own body. And before I would mash and bash and do everything that I was taught as a mechanic to be able to influence the tissues, not really paying attention to the system attached to those tissues. And so some of the things that has been an evolution in my care model has been taking some mindfulness to my own practice to be able to influence my emotional attachment to my physical body. And so the kind of the most tangible thing that I could probably express to you and your viewers would be just mindful meditation. I've been incorporating a morning practice of meditation to be able to start to pay attention to certain emotions that I might be experiencing, and starting to kind of identify, what does that mean? How do I tackle that throughout my day? And then the mindful meditation is, as I move my body, especially when I'm moving my body that's experiencing pain, I take that mindful meditative practice that I've started my day with, and I apply it within my movement practice. And we're starting to integrate that, and I'm doing that in a slow way as it relates to our education, because not everyone is ready as a manual therapist as a chiropractor to be able to start to have a conversation with the individual that they're working with, talking about these components of pain as it relates to, how are they adapting to the pain emotionally. These are conversations that I think are critical for us to be able to have comfortably with our patients. And I think that there's a way of doing that by marrying our touch therapies, our adjustive therapies, our soft tissue therapies, our interventions like tape, and starting to have a conversation saying, when I put this tape on your knee and you start to experience a change in your symptoms, how does that make you feel? And just having an open-ended conversation of getting some more feedback of the individual saying, well, it gives me more confidence. Well, how are you going to take that confidence and how is that going to influence your behaviors leaving this office? And these are things that we're starting to layer into our education because I think they're important. So going all the way back to your initial question, my personal experience of my physical ailments and how I was addressing them, let's say 8 years ago, is significantly different now because I've layered in a mindful approach to my physical body that has been giving me some good outcomes that I wasn't able to get with just the physical, interventions.
That's awesome. I'm curious, Steve, a lot of different people come to learn, from you for a lot of different reasons. I'm sure there's everything from the clinical side of how do I get better outcomes with my patients all the way to the, can I bill for it and make more money and will I attract more athletes and, my practice will be more, quote, financially successful.
Sure.
Why is that accurate? Why do you think most doctors come to you? And from your perspective, what do you hope to teach them to be, in your opinion, most successful? And how do you define success for docs that come to you? What's the outcome they're looking for when they come to learn from you?
Yeah, good. That's another good one. So I guess the first way to answer that question is that the brand that we've created with Rock Tape is identifying with the practitioner that wants to specialize. And it's not a secret that we focus our attention around patients or individuals that move. And so we are kind of leaning more heavily towards a practitioner that is interacting or treating those that move their bodies, that are either, daily activities of just walking or hiking to the elite athlete, the professional athlete. So we do kind of lean more towards that audience because of how we branded ourselves from the beginning. But as it relates to the practitioner and what I would deem to be success as a practitioner is practicing in an environment that feeds you. And that feeding for some might be just interpreted as feeds you financially. And that is one component of being successful. But I strongly do believe that success also means, are you content with the daily environment? You could make a lot of money by seeing a lot of patients, but if those patients don't feed you, and I'm going back to that emotional, component of ourselves, I don't necessarily believe that you could completely say that you're successful just by realizing the financial income associated with your practice. So success to me is a combination of financial support, obviously, but more is the environment that feeds you emotionally, behaviorally, all the intangibles that people don't necessarily pay attention to. So I think that Rock Tape really kind of feeds those individuals that want to work with the population that move their body, and we have products and education to be able to kind of highlight them or differentiate them from the rest in the market, so then they could really be known within their territory as the specialist as it relates to movement.
I think there are a lot of dynamics in movement in life, and certainly how we go through our careers as well. And with that, there's something that I noticed from the outside looking in, and it seemed like a bit of an evolution to me. But I'm interested in your thoughts on it, and that's around movement dynamics. That perhaps there's not in a perfect way to do something, but that different individuals have different ranges of what could be considered normal, and everybody is built differently. The dynamics are different moment to moment. When you think of movement and movement patterns, obviously, my understanding is that you stress the dynamics around that. But as a doc who might be new to that thought process, could you just explore that and dig in around the dynamics of movement and how everybody, very likely has a range of normal for them, and maybe encourage not to be so myopic for some of the docs out there that are very, very structural based. I don't know if I'm asking that correctly, but I just would love to hear your thoughts on it.
No, I think you're asking that correctly. It's just, it's a difficult conversation. Basically, I think what we're talking about is that, do we believe that there's a movement ideal? And the one movement that I've tackled, and I've done it in a structured way within one of our curricula within the program called FMT Movement Specialist. It's our first course that we created, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, that's starting to move away from just the manual therapy, tactics that we provide with tape and tools and cups and floss. Now we're moving into, how do we provide movement-based rehab for the chiropractor in mind. And so the movement specialist was the first course. And so the first thing that I wanted to tackle in that course was, do we believe that there's an ideal way of squatting, for example? Because everyone has tackled, how to improve your squat. And so we did just that within this course. And the start of it really has a discussion of, is there an ideal way of squatting? Should your feet be turned out at 15 degrees, 5 degrees, 30 degrees? What is that ideal? How deep should you be able to squat? How much range of motion should your spine really go through when you're squatting? All these things have been argued for decades, really. And so by looking at kind of a more like what some would consider the Bernsteinian philosophy, and Bernstein really talked about this idea of repetition without repetition. And what that means is that we all can accomplish a specific task, like a squat, but we all do it with specific nuance to our physical and let's start with our physical, restrictions. So I might have a specific architecture of my hip that's different than yours, Dr. Jeff. And so then we would accomplish the squat slightly different, but we're still accomplishing the task, which is going from one position to the other to be able to accomplish whatever the goal is. So we take that stance of saying, let's take the individual, going back to what we just talked about, is like, there's an individual that you're working with. They have a specific goal, and that goal might be to squat from standing to the ground. And we're going to take that individual and screen that individual according to what they need to accomplish in the most effective and efficient manner. And we define what we deem to be effective and what efficient is for that individual. And that becomes your screen, rescreen process. You're not taking the ideal of what, I don't even know, who would the best squatter would be, but taking the ideal of what the community might accept. We're stripping that down and saying, I really want to look at what's effective and efficient for this individual in my office right now to accomplish a goal that they want to accomplish. And that's really our viewpoint on human movement, is that we don't believe that there's a one size fits all. We do know that the individual has a goal, movement minded goal, and we want to be able to give that individual the best opportunity to be able to effectively and efficiently accomplish that task. So that's kind of my best answer, which is a difficult one, I'm not going to deny, but that is how we approach movement is, talking about movement fluency for the individual specifically.
That is very cool. I'm going to go back to sort of the education question, but I'm going to ask it from a different standpoint, which is, you've got the unique perspective of obviously being both a chiropractor and a co-founder of a very successful company. Marketing oftentimes is a major part of that. You guys have stood out in this, basically tape product category. And much of it is from your branding and from your marketing. What can you teach, us and others about sort of your philosophy on, brand, social media, email marketing? How do you think about these, tools today, and how do you use them, or how do you recommend doctors use them in order to be able to sort of get the rock tape message out, or their own message out, including rock tape? How do you teach or recommend that doctors think about it and use these types of tools?
Yeah, I'm not the expert, but I had, in my opinion, the best team to be able to take the message that both Greg Van den Dries and I had when we initially started to create this rock tape machine. And we both agreed, Greg and I both agreed, that movement was the focus of attention. And we had tools beginning with rock tape to be able to influence how you move your body in an effective and an efficient manner, just like I was referencing. And so we met with multiple individuals that kind of gave us multiple examples of how to get that message out. But Greg, I'll give him credit. Greg just said, let's be as authentic as we can and go to social media to begin with. So I have to admit that I didn't believe that it was going to be successful, but Greg put all of our eggs into social media, and we wanted to convey the message that we're a movement-based company with tools to influence how you move your body, and we did so strictly on social media. I'd say for the first 2 to 3 years, ultimately all of our messaging was, at that time, was Facebook primarily, Twitter. Then we moved into Instagram, and it was just ultimately just posting individuals with using these products, moving in a more effective and efficient manner. And then we started to kind of layer in that messaging through some email campaigns, ultimately just explaining to practitioners and individuals that use this product how it works in a way that made sense to the individual. So then we got better adoption for the products as it relates to a specific goal, which is movement. So that's kind of the best answer I can give you. Surround yourself by those that understand social media. If you don't feel comfortable with it, that's probably my first, bit of advice. I didn't have that understanding. And once they started to coach me on just being authentic in front of a camera and taking images that really make sense to people, that capture their attention, social media was the engine that we used, and we still do.
That is super powerful. And, I think of what we talk about with teach and invite, and it marries into education first approach, which you describe. Teach something about, their body that's educational, entertaining, engaging, whatever it might be, and then invite them to take the next step. And it seems like, and you're showcasing it right now, that really is, the foundation of how many different businesses and practices can and should be built in an effective manner, is that if you get out there and you're really, educating, teaching, inspiring people in a way, meeting them where they're at, where they can understand what's going on, and then showcasing, okay, here's the next step on how they can improve either their own body, their clinical practice, whatever it might be. It's just such a powerful way. And then the back end of that, obviously, of course, is the consistency, day after day, week after week, month after month. And there's no question that with your educational programs, there's a lot of consistency. So I kudos to you. We could talk for hours, but I want to be absolutely respectful of your time. Steve, thank you so much for coming on, chatting this down. It has been, this is one that Jason and I were both looking forward to, is talking with you. So, keep up the fantastic work is an understatement. I'm excited to see what you guys have coming out this year next, and as the evolution continues. And thank you so much for coming on today.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for your time.
Great interview with Dr. Steve Capobianco of Rock Tape and Implus. Jason, I love that he is thinking beyond the tape, so to speak, and that he's looking at the marriage of what goes on upstairs and mentally and physically, and how that informs a relatively mechanical product. I love the direction that they are going. I love what they've done in the past. Great interview, Steve. Thanks so much for coming on. Jason, what were your thoughts around that interview?
Steve was a great guy, and appreciated the questions we were asking him, because we are so aligned in our mindset. And again, rock tape is something that, if a chiropractor actually was in charge of their marketing, they probably would have said, good for neck pain, good for back pain, help you get better faster, and maybe covered by your insurance or covered by HSA, FSA. And yet they have built a massive company doing exactly what we're trying to inspire chiropractors to model after. And that's talking about aspirational dreams and desires, the championship mindset, as you mentioned in our conversations this week, that everybody's an athlete. So when talking about athletes, it's not just limited to sports, but we can broaden that conversation to say, if you move, you're an athlete, and these products can help you move better. And that's really the kind of pendulum switching, moving over to the other side. And instead of having to lead with chiropractic all the time, we can lead with teaching people about their bodies, how their bodies work, how their bodies break down, and how their bodies repair themselves, so that people then learn about themselves. Currently, most people don't understand how their bodies work, and they've just simply been convinced out of just pure consistency from the pharmaceutical industry that if you feel okay, you are okay. If you don't feel good, take 2 of these and ask your doctor about the purple pill, the yellow pill, whatever pill it is, and then you'll be back to health. Every pharmaceutical commercial is pretty much the same commercial, because it evokes emotion inside of you and then tells you to go ask your doctor about it. This is marketing and communication for a product, a commodity, as I mentioned in the question, that is the same type of philosophy we'd love to see more and more chiropractors adopt. Great guy, great to see his success, wonderful to see his ability to take a product and really get many chiropractors to integrate it into their services. I think expanding the conversation. I'm not saying expanding our scope. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying expanding our conversation around what we do is nothing but helpful to reach more people, learn about why we do what we do, and how what you do specifically in your practice is unique and different than anybody else. So great conversation. And I love these featured guest segments, because we get to connect with others, learn from others, bring outside perspectives inside our tribe. And another great choice. Great job.
Thank you, Steve, for coming on and sharing your knowledge with our audience. Let's head over and get strategic in our strategic marketing segment. Strategic marketing in the Smart Chiropractor Show. This segment is when we get tactical and strategic around marketing in your practice. Today, we're going to talk about how you can improve your retention utilizing a new patient onboarding email campaign. That was a mouthful, but it is much simpler in practice. Here is the bottom line. Anytime a new patient comes into your practice, they are new. And think about the last time you went into a new business, and specifically a healthcare provider. There's a lot of potential fear. There might be a little confusion and I don't know what's next. And the best thing you can do is through your onboarding in your practice, ensuring that you are guiding the path. As we look at StoryBrand, it's about being that guide. And this holds true for your new patients as well. The more that they understand not only why they're there, but the expectations of what's to come, the better your retention will be. And the same goes true with email onboarding. The reason why this is so critically important is all of us have dealt with staff turnover throughout time. It is painful and it hurts, and then you have to coach and train, and different people do things different ways. What if you were able to have every new patient onboarded in exactly the way that you desire, in exactly the same way? And email allows you to do just that. Now, the benefit of an email campaign is this is not that you or a team member needs to sit down and type it out every time a new patient comes in and remember on day 3 to send this email. A campaign allows you to do this absolutely automatically. It's what we do within Chiro emails, and our email onboarding template is one of the most popular a la carte purchases in the Smart Chiropractor store because many docs out there realize the importance of it. So you can pick up those templates in the store, or Smart Chiropractor members have it all built out for them and automated within Chiro emails. This is part of that smart patient journey, as Jason and I have discussed quite a few times, where you want to help move people from new patients to active patients to proactive patients. And new patient onboarding sits right at the beginning of that active care phase. They're coming in, they're excited, and this is your opportunity to set the stage to reduce fear, to reduce friction, and to proactively address the questions that they have around the care they're receiving. Better that you do that, the more that you do that, and the more consistent you are with that, the better your attention's going to be. Jason, new patient onboarding email campaigns, a lot of words, but I think the docs out there understand the importance of this. What are your thoughts around this topic?
Well, you said it beautifully. Let's be clear here. We're talking about retention, which means people staying with your care longer. That is a very valuable part of the equation. If people stick around longer, you don't need so many new people all the time, and you can focus more on serving those that are there as opposed to introducing the new ones who are new. But retention is a byproduct of something. I've heard it said years ago that people will leave your practice for one of two reasons. Either their pain will go away and they'll say, "Thank you very much for your service, you helped me," or their pain doesn't go away and they will leave frustrated and disappointed. But the reality, in my opinion, beyond that conversation is that people will leave your practice for one simple reason, and that's because their expectations were different than yours. And so when you're able to articulate what people should expect when they are working with you so that they, as you said, proactively know what it is that they're getting into, what's expected of them, what's not expected of them, and what they should expect as far as symptoms or results or functional improvement beyond what they feel, then you are setting yourself up. More importantly, you're setting them up for success. But that only happens one specific way. Because every practice I've ever been into has been slightly different than every other one, it really requires you to lay out what your welcoming orientation, expectations, frequently asked questions, and guidance along the journey of getting started in your practice. Jeff mentioned there's 3 phases to the new patient journey. And some of this may be done for your potential new patients. That's the first one, potential new patient, active patient, proactive patient. And understanding that journey specifically is the first step in you understanding what should I be saying to each of those people during those different phases. Jeff said it, I'm just going to repeat it for the sake of making sure you really understand what we're saying. And that is that the reason most chiropractors don't do this now is not because it's not one of the best ideas you can probably implement in your practice immediately. It's because it's hard to do. And in fact, I would say it's impossible to do if you don't know the right technologies to use, number one, and two, what to say to each person during that phase. So what you would say to a potential new person, which would be somebody who's receiving your Research That Matters newsletters on a weekly basis, or your emails that go out inviting them to one of your weekly videos or webinars or podcasts or whatever you're doing to teach and invite consistently. What you are inspiring people to do, the actions they take and the ideas they focus on are 100% up to you to dictate, to share proactively. And the consequence of not doing that, of course, is they're going to come in with their own set of expectations, and they are probably different than what they will experience when they come into your practice. So it is one of the best ideas you can possibly implement, knowing the technology, Chiro emails being the best version of the technology you could ask for. There's others out there. And then two, knowing what to say and when to say it is essential. Of course, you get those templates already built into Chiro emails, which is part of Smart Chiropractor when you get there, but we are teaching you the concepts So you can decide, hey, you know what? I'm a do-it-yourselfer. You can do it yourself. There are ways you can figure this out on your own. Others of you like to go where the gravity is, as they say, and move where it is easiest. We're happy to help you with that. But that is an essential strategic marketing tactic for you to be aware of, is making sure that when people come to your practice, they have a consistent, welcome conversation. Again, Jeff mentioned it. Staff come and go. People have good days and bad days. People, oops, I forgot. I thought you wanted me to take care of that person, not make sure I said the same thing to every person who comes in all the time. Where you can automate this communication, the better, because the more consistent it will be. Email is one of those most important places to do it. Jeff, great job, man.
Thank you, Jason. Email, campaigns, and onboarding. These things go together. Docs listening and watching, if you do not have a new patient campaign built out, you can pick up the templates in our Smart Chiropractor store, or we're happy to do it for you as a member of the Smart Chiropractor. We're getting into our final segment. It's business principles, and it's coming up right now. Business principles on the Smart Chiropractor show. This is where we wrap up the show with business principles that you can apply in your practice. So this is where the why meets the how, and understanding what you can do to build a more stable practice, to build a practice that maybe has a little bit less stress. And today's topic ties directly into that. We're going to talk about how monthly recurring revenue creates chiropractic practice freedom. Yes, that is a bold promise, but we're going to show you exactly why that is the case. Jason, what does chiropractic practice freedom have to do with monthly recurring revenue?
You know, we've been doing this for a long time, in fact, decades. And when I say this, I mean helping chiropractors really understand how to serve as many people as possible with as much joy and gratitude in your day-to-day focus on serving people. Now, one of the things that inspired me so much about becoming a chiropractor, I know you feel the same, Jeff, is the concept of giving, loving, and serving out of your abundance, not out of your need, but out of your ability to have extra. My cup runneth over, as they say, having the ability to be generous and kind. But you can only be generous and kind if you, in fact, can afford to be generous and have the spirit of being kind. And unfortunately, that's where too many in our profession break down, fall down, and aren't able to actualize or deliver on that promise. And just like most chiropractors I know, if somebody came in to see them with whatever their health history and symptom chart indicated, more often than not, many chiropractors, maybe most, hopefully, would come down to the simple conclusion that you are likely suffering from a vertebral subluxation, causing interference in your nerve system, interfering with your body's ability to heal itself and heal and function optimally. And what we have discovered to be the equivalent of the vertebral subluxation in your practice is what we refer to as financial stress. Typically, when you figure out the decisions you're making of what to do and what not to do, what to say and what not to say, where to teach, or in your case, market, and where not to market, just about every decision you make is filtered through, will that make me money? What will be my return on investment, or ROI, if I take that action? And that's no different than somebody who's living in chronic pain. Their life is not a life of freedom. It is a life of managing the stress of the pain. And what I'm trying to say here is that there is a very interesting metaphor that people who live in pain do not have freedom because they can only do what they can do relative to the impact the pain has. Now, if they can relieve that pain, better off if they can heal from that pain, they then can experience freedom in their life to do the things they want to do pain-free. And what we're suggesting to you is the same concept as it relates to your finances, that so long as you feel financial stress on a monthly basis, and I'm going to be clear, this does not matter how much money you make. There are multi-million-dollar practices with the owners feeling monthly financial stress, because as it's been said, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. It is your ability to make sure that you can consistently cover your monthly recurring expenses month after month after month without any financial stress. And so the model we are introducing to the profession, which is not a new model, it is new to the profession, is the concept to be able to experience your own financial freedom or mental pain relief, if you'd like to think of it as, by healing through it. How do you heal your financial stress? Well, you make sure that the financial requirements or expenses that you know are coming up month after month after month, your rent, your mortgage, your insurance payments, your staff payroll payments, whatever monthly recurring expenses that you have month after month after month after month, can and should be addressed by monthly recurring revenue that you have figured out. We can help you do that, but I'm staying high level, that you're able to generate monthly recurring revenue that meets your monthly recurring expenses so that you can practice mentally, financially pain-free. And the world becomes very different. You probably know from experience, yours and people in your practice's experience, that when people are living with pain, they can only experience a certain level or quality of freedom and joy. When that pain is healed through, the world opens up to an entirely different, wider spread network of opportunities. When you're pain-free, the world is your oyster. When you're in pain, you've got lots of limitations. And when you're stressed financially, you've got lots of limitations. But when you are free, because you have the confidence, knowing that your monthly recurring expenses are covered by your monthly recurring income, you once again are mentally free to serve, to give, to be joyful in what you do, and really have the freedom to work with who you want and not work with who you do not want, whether that's certain patients or certain payers, whether that's in certain places or at certain times. When you are certain your expenses are covered, life becomes freedom, and that's what we want for chiropractors. Because the number one reason why this profession continues to struggle and suffer is because most people don't understand what we do. And the number one reason why people don't understand what we do or what you do is because we're not doing a really great job expressing the potential people have to experience in their lives by using your specific services. And if we can focus on that, keep our eye on that ball, because you don't need the money, but because you can generously afford to share your truth, regardless if somebody says, that makes sense to me or it doesn't, you can be truthful regardless, because you know you're taken care of. Practice and life become very different. Jeff?
Jason, I don't have much to add. You said that so very well. Docs out there, the major thing I would like to get across is this doesn't matter how you practice. When you can reduce the freedom in your practice, regardless of how you apply your craft, your life becomes exponentially better. Your practice becomes different. You can have a heck of a lot more fun in the process. Jason, this has been an awesome Smart Chiropractor show. Fantastic segments. We talked Dr. Joe Dispenza. We had Dr. Gerry Clum with a recap on our Access 2021 presentation that he had. We discussed our monthly campaign of sports chiropractic and how discs heal. We touched upon Dr. Scott Lawrence doing a fantastic job utilizing a teach and invite strategy that and the video scripts that we provide him to get out there in his community. Dr. Steve Capobianco of Rock Tape and Implus coming in to discussing creating a champion's mindset and merging the mental and the physical. We talked about new patient onboarding, email campaigns and their importance, and we just wrapped it up with our business principle segment on reducing stress, creating freedom through monthly recurring revenue. This has been a great one, Jason. What were some of your closing thoughts as we wrap up today's Smart Chiropractor show?
Closing thoughts are, we hope you're listening. We hope that this is starting to make an impact on you, your mindset, and therefore your practice and your people. We ourselves have a big journey here. This is more than just, making sure we're covering our bills. We are covering our bills very well so that we can be free to share the truth. And our truth is that we want to help thousands of chiropractors inspire millions of people around the world to live their best life by utilizing your services, the services you want to be offering, not the services that you desperately sort of have to do in order to be able to cover the expenses. And I know a lot of you feel that way. So by having a different mindset and by staying tuned each and every Tuesday, you will be able to tune into us, tune up your practice, tune up your life, and ultimately we should all hopefully enjoy this process a heck of a lot more than many of you are right now. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully you'll join us next week. Jeff, your takeaways.
You said it. A major thing I want to get across to docs out there is tune in each and every Tuesday. Subscribe on YouTube. Click that notification box if you are watching on Facebook, and stay engaged. If you have questions, then we are happy to tackle them regardless of whether you can ask us the tough questions is what I'm getting at, and we'll do our best to find the answers. We're going to continue to highlight great featured guests. Our marketing segments coming up are fantastic. We're going to look back at our clinical conversations, Access 2021, as we gear up and prepare for 2022. So docs listening and watching, thank you so much for being a smart chiropractor. Keep an eye out for next week's episode. Let us know how we can help you, and have a fantastic week in practice. On behalf of Dr. Jason, I'm Dr. Jeff, and our entire team. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Smart Chiropractor Show. Bye-bye. Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to the Smart Chiropractor. We are posting videos on how you can market your chiropractic practice in a way that teach and invites consistently. We have found that is the magic formula to big time growth. So if you like this video, be sure to comment down below, smash that subscribe button, or visit us at thesmartchiropractor.com.